Yo, what is going on today, everyone? It is Base here, and today I'm here to bring you the Warrior class and spec tree changes. Blizzard released all of the class changes today for Midnight Alpha and what they have came up with. So let's go ahead and cover them. I'll be covering Warrior specifically for now. I'll do future videos if you guys want to see them. Let me know. So let's hop right into it. Um, to start off, it looks like they moved Intervene around. So they also removed Roar, they removed Avatar from the class tree, they kept Spear, and they gave us 3 new capstone talents in the class tree. So let's talk about them. So for Warrior, the new capstone is Anger Management. All 3 specs will get this. Every 20 rage you spend reduces the remaining cooldown of Colossus Smash, Recklessness, and Avatar by 1 second, depending on which spec you're in. You then will have Last Stand, which Prot has right now on live. When your health is brought below 20%, you marshal your inner strength to increase your maximum health by 30% for 15 seconds and instantly heal yourself for that amount. This effect only occurs every 4 minutes. I feel like this is actually a pretty bonkers defensive to have for all specs. Fury is already pretty much unkillable on live, and I feel like with this you're just going to become pretty much just a demon with defensiveness. It's actually insane. So they did keep Spear, does pretty much the same thing it does on live. And then the third new capstone they gave us in the class tree is Battlefield Commander. This is a PvP talent currently on live. Your shouts have additional effects. So Battle Shout grants you an additional 3% attack power. I believe this is just you. It's not party wide or raid wide. So I don't want anyone to get confused there. Rallying Cry grants 5% leech and 30% movement speed to allies. Piercing Howl radius is increased by 100%. Berserker Shout radius is increased by 8 yards. And Intimidating Shout cooldown reduced by 15 seconds. And some other things, as you can see, everything's been shuffled around. However, they also doubled Hone Reflexes to 10% instead of 5, which is very nice. They did not buff Rallying Cry. I don't believe, right? Oh, okay, they did buff Rallying Cry. They gave it 2 seconds. So now it's 12 seconds instead of 10. It's a nice little buff there. Um, let's see what else. So for plates, 5% stamina and 5% armor. It now gives 10% stamina and 16% armor. Or 5 and 8. So this gives 5 and 5. This now gives 5 and 8 for every spec. This is spec specific for 5 and 8, but it seems like they standardized it now to all 3 specs will get 5% stamina and 8% armor. Rend is now in the class tree as well. And am I missing anything else? Oh, Intimidating Shout, that's what it was. Yes. So Intimidating Shout is now no, it's still all. Okay. Oh, no, it's not. Sorry. I was right. Okay. So initially, Intimidating Shout alone just caused a targeted enemy and up to 5 additional enemies within 8 yards to cower in fear. However, now, just as a baseline, it causes all enemies within 8 yards to cower, disorienting them for 18 seconds. The baseline one was for 8 seconds. So it seems like they gave us a buffed fear, which is very nice. And then the capstone here reads, Intimidating Shout can withstand 200% more damage. Intimidating Shout will cause all nearby enemies except your target to flee in fear. Okay, that's fine. Piercing Howl snares all enemies within 24 yards, reducing the movement by 70% for 9 seconds. For all allies, increasing their movement speed by 30% for 4 seconds. So you can also take piercing howl as a movement speed buff, which is actually very nice. That is some good utility warriors getting actually. It's very small, very minor. However, it is still very nice. Um, what else are we getting here? So we have overwhelming rage. Let's see. Okay, so it's still the same there. Double times down here. Oh, so we get retaliation now. When you take any damage from an enemy within melee range, you have a chance to strike that enemy for 886 physical damage. So that is a nice small change. And we now have two-handed slash dual wield in the class tree. This is a new change as well. So this reads arms. While wielding two-handed weapons, your damage is increased by 3. And if you talent into it twice, 6%. Damage taken from area of effect attacks is reduced by 2 to 4%. Fury, while dual wielding, your damage is increased by 3 to 6%, and movement speed is increased by 2 to 4%. And Prot, while wielding one-handed weapons, your damage is increased by 3 to 6, and leech is increased by 2 to 4. So currently, that is. Oh, and they have resonant voice. The effects of your shouts last 20% longer. I do not believe. Okay, so rallying cry with this lasts 20% longer. So that means it'll now last like 14 seconds. Uh, if I understand that correctly. Overall, you know what? 20% longer. It's a nice change. Can't really complain. It's probably like very niche. Then let's talk about arms. So let's go into arms here. Doesn't matter if we're spec. All right, so spec tree. Let's go to arms. So they've adjusted some things around. So let's start with the big one. Oh, sweeping strikes. Okay, so sweeping strikes affects 6 additional damaging single target abilities. And the other talent here, damage dealt to nearby targets by sweeping strikes is increased by 25%. So from what I am understanding here, sweeping strikes is no longer timer based. So it works like Fury Warrior, Whirlwind, where it lasts for a set amount of abilities instead of a timer. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And we also have 2 new talents here. Colossus Smash generates 15 rage with just warming up, or you can choose Broad Strokes, which is Colossus Smash grants 6 charges of sweeping strikes. This effect will allow sweeping strikes to exceed 12 stacks. You also have Blood Surge up here. Damage from your rend has a chance to generate 5 rage. Charge, and with Initiative, Charge causes your auto attacks to generate 50% more rage. Um, let's see, what else did they change here? So the obvious one here is the capstones. You have mortal wounds instead of all of these blade storm buffed talents, and instead of executioner's precision, you now have mortal wounds. You inflict deep wounds on targets that you critically strike with mortal strike and cleave, causing causing the target to suffer bleed damage over 8 seconds. If this effect is reapplied, any remaining damage will be added to the new deep wound. You also have classic Merciless Bone Grinder. Whirlwind and Cleave deal 50% increased damage for 9 seconds after Blade Storm ends. I believe that um yes, so it's just like live. Then you have Fatality, which is also, I believe, just like live. Mortal Strike has a high chance to apply a fatal mark to your target, stacking up to 5 times. Okay, so it is different. This doesn't have a cap on it, but this one does. Your next execute on a target with a fatal mark causes the fatal mark to deal 1,000 additional damage per stack. So on live, the way this currently worked, if you remember Razageth, you would just stack it up on the boss, And once they buffed this, the issue with Fatality is that you would stack up, on the boss, and it would fall off, but then they buffed it so that it no longer fell off while you were in a fight, pretty much. So you just build this up, and then once the boss hit 30% HP or execute, you would just do a big fat mortal strike. But it now seems like you're just gonna be able to stack it up to 5 times, so that will be a interesting change to see how that works. You now also have execute precision moved up here, where your next mortal strike execute increase the damage of your next mortal strike by 35%, stacking up to 2 times. You also have soften them up, where slam increases the damage of your next mortal strike by 10%, stacking up to 3 times. You have you have spiteful serenity. I don't know why they keep this because it's never going to be brought, and it just seems like they don't really want it to be good, especially with a damage bonus reduced by 40%. That is just going to stop it from ever being brought. You do now have 2 new talents over here, though, with Press the Advantage, where Colossus Smash causes your next 3 mortal strikes to be guaranteed to trigger Tactician, and you have Crushing Combo. Colossus Smash reduces the cooldown of Cleave by 33% for 6 seconds, which is honestly pretty nice. Then up here, you have to choose between Ignore Pain and Die by the Sword. You have I don't think I've talked about this yet. So you have Brute Force. If Slam does not trigger Tactician, the critical strike chance of your next Slam is increased by 100%. And then with Efficiency, you have Rage spent on Slam counts as double towards Tactician. So that will be pretty nice. Your bleed effects deal 5 to 10% increased damage. Strength of Arms. Uh, so Strength of Arms was over here. And now they've made it a 2 talent node. So Overpower and Slam deal 5 to 10 additional damage percent, have 5% addition 5 to 10% additional increased critical strike chance, and 5 to 10% increased critical strike damage. So this just gave over the initial design of Strength of Arms just gave Overpower deals 15% additional damage, has 10% increased critical strike, and deals 10%. So it seems like they just made this 5 and 10 versus where this was just a flat 15 and 10 to the other ones. On top of that, I believe that is it. So the biggest change here is that sweeping strikes in your AoE is going to work more like whirlwind in terms of a passiveness than anything else. Oh, sorry, you have improved execute over here. This is new as well. Execute no longer has a cooldown. If your foe survives, 10% of the rage is refunded. So that is not a current talent node that I'm aware of. I haven't played Arms this tier because it hasn't been good. Oh, sorry, it is. Okay, so it is a current talent node. My bad. Um, and yeah, so those are the arms talent tree changes. Just remember that. Oh, sorry, there's one more here. Um, so you inflict deep wounds on the target, causing the target to suffer bleed damage over 8 seconds. If this effect is reapplied, any remaining damage. There's a new talent here somewhere. Sorry, give me 1 second. Oh, here it is. What Blade Storm? So yes, they changed Blade Storm here. So they've made it so that Blade Storm now extends the duration of Colossus Smash by Blade Storm's remaining duration the first time it damages an enemy. So that'll be a pretty interesting change to see. However, I think the most impactful change is the Fury one, and we will talk about that right now. Let's get into it. So a Fury, if you've ever played this class, I want you to know we are now free from Roar. We are free from Thunderous Roar, and we are free from Onslaught, which are 2 awful talents that have never felt good to press. Onslaught we used once in Abris. It was fine, like it fit in the rotation. However, it was never like a big CD where it felt good, right? So they finally took that out. In Roar, you're currently pressing that 1 time in a fight, when that's when you have no other abilities up. So Furia's got some pretty massive changes here, especially on the defensives, and we even got a cheat death, which is actually pretty insane. Um, I don't know if it will be taken though, because there is some nuance to it, but we'll get into that. So, as you see here, If you're a current warrior player, the only talents you're taking here are anger management and you're taking blade storm, right? So these two, Odin's Fury and Onslaught on current live, just are not good. After Neurobar, they gutted us. So let's talk about the new capstones, which I think are pretty awesome. So we have kill or be killed. When you would sustain fatal damage, you instead fly into an unstoppable rage, becoming unkillable and immune to movement and parrying effects for 8 seconds as you seek revenge on your would-be killer. If you kill your killer in that time, you emerge triumphant from your blind rage with at least 20% of your maximum health intact. If you are not victorious, you die. This effect can only occur every 5 minutes. So, this is actually pretty sick to get a cheat death. The only issue I have here with this talent is that it's very specific, right? Like, so if you pop it and you aren't if you don't kill the ad that's gonna kill you, right, like in a big pack, this is kind of useless. You have to know what is possibly gonna kill you, right? Like, if a cast is gonna go off on a boss and the boss is about to die, this will save you, right? Like in Mythic Plus. The issue is the main issue is knowing what is going to kill you, right? Like, if there's several casts going off, um, just knowing which cast is gonna kill you is going to be the hard part if you're in a very high key. Other than that, if you know what's gonna kill you, you could use this. Let's say your tank dies, right? And the mob or your boss is about to die. This actually will save you if you kill it within 8 seconds. So what to see how this plays out. They might need to take away the killing aspect of it, but we will have to see. Otherwise, that would be broken though, so I'm not sure. What to see. It seems like mostly a Mythic Plus talent because in Raid, um, unless it's an ad fight, then it seems pretty niche. But what to see? We'll see how that works. It'll be interesting. So now they have combined Avatar and Reckless Abandon for Fury. Uh, so I'm very interested to see how this plays out. One thing this leads into is now you take anger management in the class tree. You can now take Reckless Abandon instead of them fighting over each other. So I'm actually really interested to see how this plays out. I imagine it'll be pretty good. Um, we never take Reckless Abandon anymore, so we'll have to see how it works. I believe it still functions the same way. I'm just double checking here. Question blows 25% increases on cooldown. So yeah, it seems like it functions the same way as it does on live. So with this aspect, you don't have to take Avatar anymore, which is pretty nice because the one thing that felt pretty bad about Avatar is that it makes Arms and Fury feel very similar in the aspect that they both have Avatar. But now that you can take and also you would have this node right here, which you would have to fight over anger management and reckless abandon, which led to just always taking anger management. So that is actually a very nice change. The last thing here, which I think this needs to actually be changed for something else, is Unbottled Ferocity is now a capstone, and Rampage has a 6% chance to grant recklessness for 4 seconds. This just doesn't feel like a capstone, you know? Like, this feels like a good capstone, although it's a defensive. This feels like a pretty good capstone. I don't know, this just feels Unbridled Ferocity doesn't really feel good. Uh, I don't think it should be a capstone talent. Um, so we'll have to see what they end up changing that with. And the biggest change here, for your AoE rotation, in my opinion, is Rampaging Bruin. This is my favorite new talent. While Improved Whirlwind is active, Rampage strikes all targets in front of you for 1,000 physical damage, deals reduced damage beyond 8 targets. So what's great about this is Warrior finally has a button in its rotation where it's not just a CD. You can actually deal damage to 8 targets. I think this is the at least with me playing, I started Nihilotha. I think this is the first time that Fury has been able to do 8 target damage with an ability. So I'm very excited to see how this plays out, whenever a dungeon comes out and Fury can actually AoE. So another new talent Fury Warrior got is a Surge of Adrenaline. When Raging Blow resets its own cooldown, your auto attack damage and speed is increased by 30% for 6 seconds. I think this will be pretty good. It's kind of like Dancing Blades, where Odin's Fury increases your auto attack damage and speed by 30%. Instead, it's Raging Blow, though. It resets its own cooldown. So I think that'll be pretty fun. And I think another big change here is to put Odin's Fury and Blade Storm into one talent node. I think they should actually separate this and just put Odin's Fury here and put Blade Storm down here. I think one issue with this is that this is just going to come down to what feels tuned better. And then Fury is only going to have one AoE ability, which is just Odin's Fury or Blade Storm. Like, you don't have any other way to deal damage except for one ability. And I think unless this ability is tuned nuts, it's just not gonna feel good, right? Like, I know on current live, Fury doesn't really have any CDs, so it's fine. Um, I just feel like this might end up feeling bad. I think this feels bad just in general to have to pick between the two. So I do think they need to make this more single target over here somehow and make this side like more AoE or something. Because currently it just seems a little weird on this side. Because Fury doesn't really have a single target CD. That's what it feels like. But I guess what they're thinking is that this will become your single target CD, choosing between Avatar and Rec. But those don't feel very like you don't get a lot of feedback when you use Avatar, which is one issue. Which is where like if you're a Frost DK or like Unholy, you have CDs that visually and like feedback wise feel pretty good. So I think that's one thing that Fury is still missing is that it needs like a big CD that feels good. And until it gets that, I think it's going to struggle to feel good as a spec to play in terms of CD usage. So we'll have to see what they do with that. And so let's talk about some other talents. You have Executioner's Wrath. Execute generates 5 additional rage and increase the damage of Rampage for 10% for 4 seconds. You have Rage Drinker. Bloodthirst critical strikes restore twice as much health and enrage. You also have Deep Wounds now. Execute inflicts deep wounds on the target, causes the target to suffer 1,000 bleed damage over 6 seconds. If this effect is reapplied, any remaining damage will be applied to the new deep wounds, which I think is pretty interesting. You have Scent of Blood. Rampage increases the damage of your next Bloodthirst by 10%, stacking up to 2 times. Massacre, that's not a new talent. I'm just making sure I cover this all for you guys. Oh, Unslaked Thirst. Bloodthirst critical strikes increase the damage of your Raging Blow by 10% for 4 seconds. Fish Consent, that's on live. It's right here. So there's nothing new there. So you have Invigorating Fury over here. So they just want you to choose between the two now instead of having them baseline, which is fair. I mean, Fury Warrior is pretty tanky, so I mean that's a fair choice. And I believe that is it, unless I'm stupid. You have improved Raging Blow here. Yeah, so those are the big class tree changes and spec tree changes. We can't see the hero talents yet. They're still a work in progress, and maybe they'll see them tomorrow. And as far as Apex talents, you also can't see those for Warrior. So if you guys want to see other classes, or if you're interested in seeing a certain class, let me know. I'll cover it for you. And yeah, those are all the Warrior changes. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below on what change you want for your class or what class you're looking forward to seeing changes or Apex talents for. And I hope you guys have a good day.